Hey guys, Ryan1988 or Justin back here for part 2 with my interview with Kevin. I'm going to try to... Sommerfield? Did I say it right?
Yep.
Okay, woo! I got it right. Yes, okay. Okay, now we're going to questions about Slasher Studios, and then we're going to give some fun... I'm going to give you fun questions, Kevin. So, talking about Slasher Studios, the question is... let's see, where is it? What got you and Steve the idea to do the webcast?
The webcast?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we started out with the webcast on Blog Talk Radio. For those of you guys who are interested, just look up Slasher Studios and Blog Talk Radio. We started it out just kind of as a little passion project to just talk about our movies that we were working on, some behind-the-scenes stuff. And then all of a sudden, we just had one random week where we just said, hey, this week we're going to review the Scream franchise.
Oh.
So we spent like 10 minutes on each of the films and the Scream movies. And then that was kind of what started everything. And since then, we're like every week we're going to have a different concept for the week, whether it be the best horror villains, the best final girls, the best 80s horror movies, the best horror directors. And ever since then, I mean, we've been doing the show for a little bit over a year now. We've really stuck with those themed weeks. And since I started Slasher Studios Horror Film Club, I've tried to really align the two together. So, I mean, if we're talking about our favorite, like you said, the college slashers,
Yeah.
on our webcast that same week, we'll talk about college slashers on the in the Facebook group. So I mean, it's been a wonderful ride. It's a lot of fun. We have been doing that for, I think we just had our 60th show
wow.
a couple weeks ago. So I mean, we're definitely running a little low on topics. So, I mean, for those of you out there who are listening to this, definitely let us know if there's something that you think that we should cover that we haven't yet. But, yeah, it's been a wonderful ride so far, and it's a lot of fun, and we've gotten some really good feedback on that.
Well, since you mentioned, topics that, you would love people to mention, I'm definitely going to try to think of some, and I'll write you later and let you know what I think and let you know what topics I think would be a lot of fun to talk about. But
Awesome.
Another thing, I'm curious, when you guys, like, for future shows, do you come up with the topics in advance, like, 2 weeks before the actual show? Do you guys come up with the topics, or how do you do it?
Yeah, usually I'm usually one of the two that comes up with a topic, and literally I will just stare at my horror movie collection and look at some of my favorites and say, what do these movies have in common, and what do I like about them? And that's usually the genesis of that idea. So I'm like, okay, well, I have, like for the college slasher, like I was like looking at like Initiation and Hell Night and Pieces and those type of movies. I'm like, oh, these are all college slashers. We should do a week on college slasher films, and that's really usually how it starts.
Well, I think that's cool, and I have to say that I love the fact that you guys get the fans or other people involved with the Facebook page, and how you let people, get involved by letting them do reviews, and how you post them on the website itself. And I think that is just great, and it's a great way to meet other friends and to meet other people, and again, just get other people involved with it.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, that's how I feel as well. I mean, if you guys join the Slasher Studios Horror Film Club on Facebook, I mean, you do a review. I'll post it on the Slasher Studios website. You get credit for it. I mean, it's just a way to kind of share your opinion, and that's what I really want. Like, especially when I started the Slasher Studios website, was that I wanted this to very much be a community and not just, well, these are my reviews, this is my opinion, and that's all there is to say about this. I mean, if you go on to Slasher Studios, there's several movies on there that there are several movies on there that have several reviews for them, and some of them are completely different. I mean, I voted as one of my favorite horror movies last decade. I picked a very unconventional favorite. I picked Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Woo!
If you look on the website, the next one on there is somebody who said that, who did a review for it, who absolutely hated it. So, I mean, I think it's nice to kind of have that counterbalance.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when it comes to horror, there is no right or wrong. I mean, as long as you have a strong opinion, you back it up with stuff that you loved in the movie or stuff that you hated, there is no wrong answer. And I think that's what I think a lot of horror fans are kind of, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if naive is the right word, but I think that part of the problem is that they'll watch a movie and say, well, I didn't like this, so, you know, anyone else who doesn't like this is, you know, an idiot, or, you know, it just comes down to, you know, the one person opinion, and that's really too bad because that's not the way that it should be.
No, and, you know, I think the one thing I love about movie lovers and horror movie fans is that we all have our own opinions, and we should definitely respect each other's opinions. And if you like a movie, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But another person might like that movie.
Yeah, I sincerely believe that, I mean, this week we're talking about the worst horror movies the worst horror movies that we've seen. I mean, horror related, and they're either, you know, awful movies or ones that are so bad that we love them. And I think that really comes down to the fact, too, that, I mean, some of the movies on there are movies that I'm like, well, that movie's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I really try to find something that I would never just viciously tear apart a movie because I know how much work it takes to make any movie. I mean, that in and of itself is a minor miracle that, you know, you got a movie made, you got it released, and people can watch it at, you know, their leisure. So, I mean, that's something to be said right there. And I would much rather watch or review a movie that's so bad it's good, where you get some pleasure out of it, but if you're not getting anything out of the movie whatsoever, you know, those are the kind of movies that I usually don't even bother reviewing, because I'm just like, well, what's the point? You know, I don't even care that much to spend any more time on it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there are some bad movies out there, but I definitely love the so bad they're good type of flicks, and you do find some enjoyment out of those movies. So when I do my review this week, I'm gonna try to find one of those. It's really, really hard because I do like a lot of films, but I'm definitely gonna try to come up with something for this week.
Awesome, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, going back to last week, though, with college slasher films, this question is, did you find people pick some really interesting picks? Did you ever expect them to pick that one, or were there some that you didn't even know about?
The college slasher week, I'm trying to think if there were any that I was, like, shocked by the picks. I would say for the college slasher week, the picks were predictable, but predictable in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd seen all of them that were covered last week, but they were all movies I'm like, oh, I didn't have time to review this, or I didn't have time to cover this. I'm glad somebody else did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were all really, really, really good picks. I loved a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them I own. They're in my favorites. Even some of them that people are like, well, here's a college slasher that I hated, or that, you know, I didn't really care for. I'm just like, oh, yeah, you know, I even know the next one. So, I mean, like I said, it was predictable, but predictable in a really good way. And there were some really great reviews and some wonderful movies mentioned that hopefully will give some people the idea for some rental tech.
Oh yeah, and if people read those reviews and if they haven't seen those movies, that's like a great way to go on Slashers, the fan page or the Facebook page, and it's a great way to find out about all these different slasher films.
Mm-hmm.
And one that I have to say, and I recently heard a webcast interview with you, and you were talking about Sorority Row and how you love that character, Jessica.
Yeah?
I freaking love her. Oh my gosh. I was watching that the other night, and that was my last review for College Slashers, and I mentioned how much I love that character, Jessica. I think, you're supposed to hate her, but she's one of those characters that you love too.
Yeah, and Sorority Row is literally, I think, it gets everything right that a remake should do.
I agree.
And that's, it takes the bare premise of the original, takes it to present time, and has fun with it, and changes it, and livens it up in a good way. And, I mean, I think that too many of the remakes today are just bland and boring and predictable. Or, I mean, they follow the original to a T. And, I mean, if you're going to just do the first one again, I mean, there's no point in that. People can just watch the original again. And I just think that Sorority Row is a ton of fun. The character of Jessica is absolutely hilarious.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
a super bitch, but every single line out of her mouth is instantly quotable. And she's a blast to watch. And when she finally gets it at the end, you're a little bit sad. But
I know.
At the same time, you're like...
Oh, I know, like, you're kind of like, yeah, the mean girl's dead, but I was kind of sad when she died. I was like, I didn't want her to die. I thought she was great, but she kind of went out with a bang, in a way, so I was kind of like, that is, like, one of the best deaths in the movie.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Oh, I loved that character, so when you mentioned that, I was like, you know what, he's, like, on my top 10 of awesome people. So, I loved it. Oh my gosh. And it's sad that it didn't do so well at the box office. I was like, this movie's so good. It's one of the better remakes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really sad because, I mean, slasher movies are just kind of dead right now. They're completely dead at the water when it comes to box office. I know I was crossing my fingers that Scream 4 was going to be a huge hit when it was released last year. If anything, just to kind of resurge the slasher boom, and it was a big disappointment. I didn't think in terms of quality. I thought the movie itself was really, really well done.
I did too.
But I mean, it didn't bring in a new audience, and I think that part of the problem with that movie is that maybe it waited too long, and the original audience had just grown up and were no longer interested in the franchise. And for teens today, Scream, to them, that's kind of old news. Many of them were, just being born when the original came out.
I know.
So, I mean, there was just, there was no way to get kind of the involvement, and that's really sad.
It is very sad. I remember when I saw the trailer for Scream 4, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see this. And I thought it was going to do really, really well. And, it made a good amount of money, but it wasn't what I expected. And I think, it just kind of waited too long, because again, there's, in today's time, there's a new audience, and a lot of people that, what was the word I was trying to come, a new audience basically would not know about that franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, 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 really sad, and I'm glad that they didn't do this way, but I remember when Scream 4 kind of flopped at the box office, everyone was kind of saying, would this movie have made more money if it wasn't Scream 4 and it was just a remake of the original?
That's kind of...
The honest truth is probably, it's not a movie that I really would have wanted to see. I mean, I definitely would have seen it. I don't think there would have been really much point in it, because I think that the original Scream really still holds up very well today.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I just don't think that they were able to get a new group interested.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree, though. Like, if it was more of a remake, I think with a newer audience, they would be like, oh, this is something new. Let's go check it out. But I'm glad, they actually did a sequel and they didn't remake it, because, like you were saying, the first Scream is still really fresh, in my opinion. And it really still holds up today.
Yeah, I mean, Scream 4, it had been 10 years, but at the same time, you were able to get the entire cast back. You were able to get the same writer, same director. I mean, that's wonderful that all that happened, and it's just too bad that there wasn't more of an audience out there to actually appreciate it.
I know I saw it that weekend, though. I had to go see Scream because I grew up with those films, and I still remember seeing those movies for the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, I grew up with them too, and I can honestly say that I actually went to see Scream 4 5 times in the theater.
Wow.
I went to see it twice just opening weekend.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, because that's what you do when you're a horror fan.
Yes.
You try to show it to as many people as possible, try to get the word of mouth, and there's nothing better out there than enjoying a really good horror movie and spreading it to other people and watching them have a great time with it as well.
I agree. I mean, I don't know what you thought about this one, but I personally liked it. It was the Friday the 13th remake. What'd you think of that?
I was kind of in the middle. I liked some of the deaths. I think the biggest problem with Friday the 13th, the remake, was the fact that I think it tried to do too much. I mean, it really tried to take bits and pieces of several Friday the 13th movies and just kind of combine them all into one. Mm-hmm. I would have liked to have seen it have a little bit more focus. And I think that the biggest problem for me, I mean, I don't necessarily think that it was a bad movie, but everything that New Line Cinema has done with the Friday the 13th franchise, whether it be that remake or Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell or Freddy vs. Jason, for whatever reason, they can't get that feel of what those early Paramount movies have.
I completely
of kind
agree.
Of that, you know, wilderness, and I don't know, they just don't feel the same to me, and I think that's really what was missing for me.
I think I agree with that. I mean, like the feel of the first the feel of the first 8 films from Paramount. I think you could watch those a lot more than the ones from New Line. They're just so much fun, and I absolutely love them. But going back to you seeing Scream 4 when it came out in theaters, you said 5 times, and introducing it to others. I remember seeing the Friday the 13th remake in theaters, and we saw it twice with college friends, and it was a blast because you get to go with your friends, and I think that's a really, really awesome thing to see these movies with friends, because you get to laugh and have fun and just have a really, really good time.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I mean, for better or worse, and I know that everyone out there has a different feeling about this franchise, but I mean, even the people that really, really, really like the Paranormal Activity movies and like the sequels, I think that even them would agree that those movies don't have that same kind of feeling and that same kind of reaction. I mean, slasher movies are all about the audience feedback. I mean, the cheering when somebody dies and the clapping and the laughing, and you really don't get that with any other subgenre of horror.
I don't think so either. I mean, you can have a good time watching, like, ghost films, possession films, or any type of other subgenre of horror, but I think the slasher subgenre is the best one, because you just have a good time and just have a blast watching them. There's a good feeling when you watch those ones.
Right.
So, okay, now going on to fun questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, fun question. Okay. What have been some of the recent modern horror films that you've loved?
Recent modern horror that I've loved. I think that's a really good one in the last decade. I adored Eli Roth's Cabin Fever.
Oh,
I know that I'm one of the few people out there. It's a very dividing film, even amongst horror fans. People love it or they hate it. There's no in between. And I'm firmly in the love it category. I think it's hysterically funny. It's a wonderful homage to 70s and 80s slashers. Great characters, really good deaths. I love the look of the film. Cinematography is great. And then just to kind of take a look at another movie that's kind of another 80s homage that is kind of the polar opposite of that. I adored Ty West's House and Devil.
Yeah.
That was a movie that took itself completely seriously from beginning to end. Really replicated perfectly that 80s look of kind of cult and supernatural horror. I just thought that movie was one of the few movies that I've seen recently that I actually thought was legitimately scary and had really likable characters that you really cared about. I mean, there's one character in that I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen it, but I mean, it's a friend of the main girl's, and when something happens to her fairly early on, you're devastated because she's such a likable character, really down to earth, really funny and witty, and it just comes out of nowhere. And I love a horror movie that I can watch even today that kind of takes me by surprise, and that movie definitely did. And I have to say, if I were going to pick two movies of the last decade that I just adored, those are the two right there.
Oh, I loved them, and The House of the Devil was one that when I first watched it, after watching it, I just had such a fun feeling watching that film, and it's just because it's a lot of fun, it's creepy, and it's just a well-made movie. Okay, next...
Yeah, and it's just about perfect.
Oh, it is. I think it's a perfect movie. I absolutely loved it, and I agree the characters are very likable, so when that character goes pretty quick in the movie, I was sad, and it was shocking, too. Next...
I mean, I definitely...
You what?
I don't jump very much in horror movies, but when that happened, I definitely jumped out of my seat, because it is just so unexpected.
Oh, it is. It really, really is. And I think it's because it's a very likable character, so...
Mm-hmm.
But the next question is, what movies do you tend to watch over and over when you have a horror movie marathon?
Horror movie marathons, I know that sequels really get a bad rap, but the sequels are the most fun to watch over and over and over again for the fact that, I mean, we all love the originals. The originals are great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're going to watch a movie several times, I mean, if you watch a sequel, you know, you don't need the backstory. You don't need the introduction. I mean, you can just jump right in. You know, you're going to have entertaining kills, hopefully likable characters, funny dialogue. And for that, I mean, I would always go to many of my favorite 80s slasher sequels. Some of my favorites that I think are really rewatchable. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I love, for Friday sequels, I really adore Friday the 13th Part 2.
That's
and
a
Friday
great
the 13th, The New Blood.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sequels. Sequels are always so much fun. So, I mean, I could have a horror movie marathon with just sequels and have a great time.
Oh, yeah. I think, you know, again, you were saying, though, the original ones are great, but I think the sequels bring some type of special quality because they are a lot of fun to watch. And, yeah, I definitely love the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels and the Friday the 13th sequels and the Halloween sequels because there's some really special qualities in most of those sequels.
Yeah, I think that, too, with the sequels, I mean, the best sequels always, even to this very day, are the ones that stay true to the original but add something new. And I think that all of those sequels, they all have that similar quality.
I completely agree. So the next question can go with the movie marathon. What is the perfect food and drink when watching a horror movie for you?
That is a very interesting question. I think it all depends on the type of horror movie. The badder the horror movie, the stronger the alcohol is required. I mean, it's just, I have many different kind of drinking games to horror movies. One of my favorite ones is to, and I urge all of you out there, if you haven't done it yet, someday put in a copy of Poltergeist 3, get lots of alcoholic beverages for you and your friends. They could drink every time they stay. The name Carol Ann.
Oh my gosh.
It's like 118 times in 100 minutes. You'll feel really good or really sick by the end of the movie. I can't guarantee it otherwise. Besides that, though, like, I mean, if I'm just going to sit down and just watch a good movie, pretty traditional. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, just a cold beer and actually like a cold piece of pizza. I think that they really go well with kind of just a cheesy horror movie. They're just fun, and you don't need anything special to go with your movie, and I think that's a perfect combo for me.
Oh my gosh, like when you said cold pizza though, I was like, he's in my top 10, or no, top 5 of favorite cool people, because I love cold pizza. I always ate it, and I think it's great. And when I think of pizza, though, I think of Slumber Party Massacre. So I think that's the good food to eat when you watch that one, especially.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, and I have to say, with Popularity Killer, I love the fact that you guys threw in a movie marathon. And you played Night of the Living Dead on the screen, and you had the beers and everything in there. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very typical weekend for me and my friends. I mean, it's very much kind of a page out of my home life, I guess you could say.
Well, I think that's really great that you can bring friends over and just have a movie marathon, because that's what I usually do with friends, is that we'll hang out, get some food, drinks, and just have a good time watching some movies.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a good time. I mean, it's cheap, it's entertaining, you don't have to leave the house, and especially if it's with friends that you're really close with and movies that you really enjoy, I mean, you really can't go wrong.
Oh, I agree. Now, the last and most important question for you, and it might be hard, I don't know, but it is. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
What's your favorite scary movie, Kevin?
This changes all the time. I'm going to go with a very, very unconventional choice. I will say that it's always between these three. Whenever anyone asks me, it's always either the original Black Christmas, which I just think is a timeless masterpiece.
I love it.
Or Nightmare on Elm Street, which I just think is terrific. But I'm actually going to go with the sequel. And my favorite horror movie as of right now, changes all the time between these three, but it's actually Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh, wow.
I think it is the perfect horror movie. I think it's legitimately scary. Wes Craven's back. Heather Langham's back. I think as much as I adore the original Scream, and I think the original Scream is a perfect slasher film, I actually like New Nightmare better because I think it was actually ahead of its time. It does very similar kind of, it has the meta attitude. You got Freddy attacking the real life actors of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. What I love more than anything is the fact that this is one of the few horror sequels out there that I know for a fact would never be made today because of how many chances it takes and the fact that it actually expects its audience to be intelligent, to know these characters, and to understand what's going on. And I think that too often, especially today, horror movies really tend to undermine their audience and just kind of play down to them and, play everything to the lowest common denominator. And this is something that from beginning to end, and I have a few little nitpicky problems with New Nightmare, but it's just a flawless concept. And like I said, it's one that I know for sure would never be made today because there's not a single studio out there that would say, hey, let's take this big of a gamble on this big of a franchise.
And I like it a lot, though, because it's very unique in the series to the fact that they bring it out into the real world, and Heather's playing Heather, and Robert Englund's playing Robert Englund, and Wes is in the movie, and he's playing himself, so I absolutely think that's a great film, and a great pick. It's a great, great pick, and I think, honestly, it's definitely Heather Langenkamp's one of her best performances in the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
I think today that's definitely her best performance, and I mean, another thing that I love about the movie, too, and I could tell about that movie forever, is the fact that it's one of the few, if only, horror movies out there that legitimately looks at the question, do horror movies have a responsibility to the audience that's watching them?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I mean, Scream kind of played with that idea, but not nearly to the extent of this movie. And I love the fact that, like you said, Heather's playing herself. Nico Hughes is terrific as her son. They really, I think that the chemistry between those two, I mean, they really do feel like a mother-son team, and that helps really drive the film and really gives you a rooting interest to care about these characters.
I completely agree, and I thought they were very convincing as mother and son. I really, really enjoyed those performances in that movie a lot. So that is a great pick. Mine has always been this one, and it will always be this one, because I have so many memories with it, and it's definitely John Carpenter's Halloween. I absolutely love that film, and, there's a lot of horror movies out there that I really, really love, but one that always comes to mind, what's your favorite scary movie, is definitely Halloween. It's one that a lot of people talk about, and people would probably pick, but I would definitely have to say Halloween is mine.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a classic, and it's really, it can be argued, but, it's really kind of a slasher movie that really set the template for 80s slashers, and really, I don't know if Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't know if any of them would have ever been made, or would have been made the way that they are if it wasn't for the original Halloween, because, it's a masterpiece of film. Great cinematography, likable characters, wonderful score. It's a really, really, really good film.
Oh, yeah. And one real quickly before I let you go. Black Christmas, the original, I absolutely love it, and it's still one of those movies that scares me today when I watch it.
Oh, yeah. That movie, 40 years later, holds up better than many of the horror movies today. I think that is absolutely chilling. Another one with really good cinematography. I don't think that Black Christmas is a perfect film. I think that it's a little rough around the edges. But that's actually what I really like about it. I like the fact that it takes a lot of chances. And I love the fact, too, that it's very open-ended when it gets to the conclusion as to who the killer even was, and whether or not our final girl is safe at the end. So, once again, that's a movie that takes chances that probably wouldn't be made today and wouldn't definitely be made the way that it was.
Oh, I know, and the ending is like, oh my gosh, and if you guys haven't seen the movie, you can click mute a little bit, but my question is, how come they never checked the attic? That's what I never got, was they never checked the attic.
You know what? That's the question that everyone asks, and I honestly don't have a good answer for that. Yeah, I think that it's just one of those, I guess you just kind of have to throw it up to the fact that the cops in this movie are not exactly the smartest ones around, even though you do have the wonderful, the one and only John Saxon.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know why they don't check the attic. It's too bad, because they could have possibly saved Jess at the end, but I think it gives it an eerie ending, if you don't think about it quite too much.
Yeah, and it's just one that, you kind of question, and you're like, what could have happened when the movie ends? And another thing that always made me wonder about the ending is how they would leave this poor girl who's been through so much alone in a room. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, why would you leave her alone, even if nothing was there? This poor girl went through so much.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know what, Kevin? It was a pleasure to have you on, and you're my first interview on YouTube, and I really, really appreciate it, and I had so much fun talking with you.
Oh, not a problem at all. I had an absolute blast, and thanks for having me, and I'm honored to be your first interview on your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much. Now, I end my videos with a tagline, and I hope you don't mind saying it because I would love to see you end the video this way. But I have a saying called "Go eat some Skittles." I don't know if you're a fan of Skittles or not, but I absolutely love them.
Oh, I love them too.
And it would be an honor if you could say, "Go eat some Skittles" to everybody.
Not a problem. Go eat some Skittles.
Go eat them. Kevin said eat some Skittles. I'm saying it too. And thank you so much, Kevin, for this interview.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure being on your show.
Thank you. And I will talk to you guys later. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, talk to you later. Bye.